Hello and welcome to 40 Entrepreneur Drive. My name is Kenya. Welcome to the channel. This particular video was meant to be a live stream chat, but for some reason I was having some technical difficulties where I kept getting disconnected from the internet, and it was frustrating for me, and I'm sure it was frustrating for anyone who was in the room trying to participate. This video, well, the live stream was supposed to be called, and the video will be called Karoshi, the work culture that kills. And this particular video, I'm going to be reflecting on overtime, which is the latest theme that I've been covering. Overtime and work culture that does not necessarily support the health of its employees. Today's work culture, in many ways, especially in Western society, supports its employees' physical health and physical safety by means of protective wear, things like protective eyewear, safety gloves and sleeves, hearing protection, breathing protection, fall protection. Depending on the type of industry that you work in, there's probably some type of safety and or ergonomic element put into place to keep you safe while you're at work. This increases the viability of long-term employees, and it also decreases the liability to the employer. So these are physical injuries that can be seen by the naked eye, but what about injuries that happen that cannot be seen? And that's what I wanted to talk about. Going to be consulting with some websites and some sticky notes that I have, if I can get them back up. First off, outside of talking about overtime, I wanted to reflect, without revealing too much personal information, I wanted to reflect on two incidents that have happened since I've returned to work. So if you don't know, I work in a warehouse, factory, manufacturing type of place that I don't name on my channel for privacy and protection purposes. And for about 6 weeks, I was out of work. I was on strike from that employer. Not just me, but the workers as a whole. And we were off work. And most of us, depending on what's going on with each individual, most of us were at home, relaxing and resting, and catching up on things at home and with our family. Now, the resting and relaxing part was long overdue because for several years now, we've been working a mandatory 6-day work week. Now, there is a policy put in place where you can request to be excused from that day. Sometimes it's approved, sometimes it's denied, but in general, you are expected to be present and accounted for and productive 6 days a week. So we went from working 6 days a week for several years to not working at all. And then we went back, which is a good thing. It has positive benefits of payment and compensation and benefits that come along with having a full-time job. However, we went back just the way we left. We stopped abruptly, and we went back and picked up where we left off. Now, in the type of environment that I'm in, the pace is not set by people. The pace is set by machines. The pace is set by a non-human factor that humans need to keep up with. And although I got somewhat out of shape while I was off work, I actually gained quite a bit of weight while I was off work. Even though I stayed busy and productive at home, it's not the same as, working every day and being on the same eating routine, working routine, exercise routine. So even though I was out of shape and went back, and I was a little bit tired when I went back, I was pretty much okay, other than the fact that I can no longer fit many of my work pants. But the older workforce that helps to comprise what my company uses, the older workforce, I think they suffered the most. The older gentleman that I had recently been talking about, my new friend and mentor, he told me he has really been trying to adjust back to the full-time work schedule, again going from a 0 to 100, going from full stop to full production. And my mother, who's back home in Michigan, we have facilities there as well. She told me that the first week back, someone had a heart attack. I don't know if they recovered. I don't know if they died from the heart attack, but she did tell me that the first week back, someone had a heart attack. The second week back, which was this past week, one of my coworkers actually suffered from a stroke. I was in shock because this individual, I wouldn't say that this individual is out of shape or is in bad health, but it is an older individual. And that second week back, they worked, and then near the end of the week, they had a stroke. They are in stable condition, thank God. I think and hope that they will be back soon. There's going to be some rehabilitation that's going to be necessary to be fully functional again. But when I heard those two things, with those two incidents plus the feedback from my new friend and mentor, who is an older gentleman, it's just making me wonder and question why the company didn't choose to pick up production and start production in a way that was slower and allowed people to, one, mentally prepared to be back to work, two, physically prepared to have your body do repetitive motions and be on your feet, and also aerobically, cardio wise, aerobically get back into working 8-hour shifts, sometimes longer depending on the department that you're in, or if you choose to work overtime, but working for that amount of time full force. I personally think it was a shock to a lot of people's systems. When I went back, I actually went back with a cold. I was healthy the entire time I was off, but I actually went back with a little bit of a cold that my daughter gifted me. Thanks, Keiko. And so I was really out of it. I was taking cold medication and walked in with my water and my vitamins and a box of Kleenex. And I felt horrible. That little cold made me feel horrible because not only was I trying to get over the cold, but I was trying to push my body to comply with the pace that was being set by the environment. But other than that, I was pretty much okay, But if I was suffering with a cold, I can only imagine what the older people that help make up our workforce were going through. Now there are some easier jobs in my workplace, and there's some really tough and challenging jobs in my workplace. And for the most part, most of the young people do the tougher jobs just because of seniority and the time that they've been there at the company. And for the most part, older people get the nicer, less physical, enduring jobs, which I can understand. And I'm happy when I do see an older person being able to rest. However, if an older person, like my mentor, is a recent hired person, they're not gonna get a job that might be more suited for their age. They're not necessarily going to get a job that's more suited for their age. They're going to get a job that they can get with the time on hand. And so my friend is doing the job of someone probably half his age. He is in his 60s, and most of the people in this particular department are in their 20s to 30s. I believe I've kind of risen in the ranks over the years with the time that I've been there. So I've risen through the ranks and suffered through some of the suckiest jobs, really painful jobs to do, really physically enduring jobs. And so I don't have to do that anymore. But this man does, because he doesn't have the time to work outside of that department. But he does it, and he does it well. He pushes himself and he does it well. And kudos to him. But it's tough work. Overall, it goes back to the work culture of I need to be careful the way I say this. Safety is a priority in my place of employment, but it could be better. I'll put it that way. So, Karoshi is the term that I mentioned at the top of the video. It is a Japanese term. I don't know if I mentioned it just now, if I mentioned it on the live feed that went awry, but Karoshi is a Japanese term, and it literally means worked to death. And I'm going to be reading this from Wikipedia. Karoshi, which can be translated literally as overwork death in Japanese, is occupational sudden mortality. The major medical causes of Karoshi deaths are heart attack and stroke due to stress and a starvation diet. This phenomenon is also widespread in other parts of Asia. Now, in the United States of America and in most Western countries, I don't think there's too many issues with people starving themselves to death. Most people that are gainfully employed eat enough. You know, we don't really starve ourselves over here. There's an obesity epidemic, but not too much of a starvation epidemic unless you are low income or below the poverty line, which none of that applies to me, myself, or my coworkers. So, but the other part, I can definitely see how that could happen. And I'm really shocked and surprised. I had these pages set up, but I hadn't actually read from them. So for me to read that, I'm really shocked, because it really hits home. I'm going to read that again. The major medical causes of Karoshi death are heart attack and stroke due to stress and a starvation diet. This phenomenon is also widespread in other parts of Asia. So Asia has a very strong work culture, but they also have a very different social philosophy of working for the whole, working for the good of the whole, and doing your part, pulling your weight, and making sacrifices so the whole can benefit. Whereas here in the West, it's more individualized. We don't really prioritize the well-being of the whole so much as our own individual needs. So I think it would probably be just as harmful, this idea of Karoshi here in the United States, if we had that type of social philosophy of, you know, do your best and go above and beyond so that the society can prosper, so that the company can prosper. You know, make those sacrifices on yourself, whether they be health or time or family. Make those sacrifices for the good of the company. Now I'm going to read from Healthline. This is just another quick one that I pulled up. 7 red flags that you're working too much, healthline.com. If you feel like work is consuming your life, you're not alone. Somewhere in the range of 40 to 50 hours per week is more than enough for most people. 40 is enough for me. 40 or less is enough for me. Says Randy Simon, PhD, a licensed clinical psychologist based in Montclair and Summit, New Jersey. Prior to getting her PhD, Simon spent years working in corporate HR as a career and executive coach. But simply counting work hours can be deceiving. Other factors that can lead to burnout include the length of your commute, outside responsibilities, work environments, feelings of appreciation, amen, and job satisfaction. I'll probably make a whole other video on that. The feelings of being appreciated or unappreciated in your job, oh boy, that can really wear on you or boost you up. Okay, back to the article. Instead, it might be more helpful to tune into your body. Watch out for the moment you can't enjoy your time off work, says Simon. If work is all consuming, it's not healthy. Read on to see if your body is responding to your workload with any of these warning signs. Number 1, it says, if you turn to alcohol for relaxation. I'm not putting anybody's business out there, but I work with a lot of alcoholics. I work with a lot of functioning alcoholics that you might not know if you saw them, and you might not even realize if you work with them. But I work with a lot of alcoholics, and that's all I'm gonna say. I never understood why that was, but I can see the correlation because I've been there for so long. I can definitely see the correlation between turning to alcohol for relaxation. But the actual article says working more than 40 hours per week can make you more likely to drink risky amounts of alcohol. That's a minimum of 14 drinks for women and 21 drinks for men per week. Again, I'm not putting anybody out there, but I know people who drink regularly before and after work, and sometimes during work to cope. It says here excessive alcohol consumption can also increase your risk for life-threatening conditions. So you should try this. Use your commute to rest. You know what? Subconsciously, I didn't realize I was doing this, but it's probably one of the reasons why I don't even have the radio on. Like for the radio station music, I usually drive with nothing on. If I do have something on, it's usually some language learning stuff that I've got just to be learning while I'm commuting. But I usually don't even have anything on the radio because I want it to be quiet. I don't want any input. I don't want any stimulus. I don't want to do anything but drive and just be in that quiet environment of my car. It says here that downtime is important because it's time to re-energize. You should use it to transition between work and home. Try to avoid screens on your way home if you work with computers during your day. Instead, listen to your favorite Spotify playlist. Now, I'm hoping that they're talking about maybe if you commute on a train or a bus. Everyone should be avoiding their screen while you're driving. It says, listen to your favorite Spotify playlist, audiobook, or podcast. That's what I do. That's what I do. But, if you like to listen to music, that's your prerogative. Me, I can make a whole other video on why I don't listen to music because of the lyrics. Okay, your productivity, this is number 2, your productivity is stalling. If you've increased your hours without significant results, the longer hours are probably decreasing your productivity. A Stanford research paper found that people who worked 70 hours per week didn't actually get more work done than their peers who worked 56 hours. We're not wired to be productive every minute of the day. I concur. The type of work that we do in my job, it is physical work that requires you to put things together and or assure that things are put together the proper way. Again, I'm not going to put anybody out there, but I've seen it myself and I've experienced it myself. I've done it myself. The longer I work, the less I'm actually paying attention to what I'm doing. The more that I work, the less inclined I'm actually to do a top-notch job. Whereas if I am fully functional, energized, alert, and fresh, I'm very thorough with my work. I'm probably doing much more than I should be doing. And I'm making sure everything is 100%. Whereas when I'm tired, when I'm sick, when I'm overworked, a casual glance is what I have done in the past, and I'm saying, it's good enough. That's not good for the company. That's not good for the customer. That's not good for the product, and it's not good for me if I get caught. But I definitely agree with that productivity will stall. The longer you work, you don't work better. You don't work better the more that you work. You actually work worse. So it says to try this, make a to-do list. It doesn't really apply to my particular job, but it may with someone who is listening. To avoid getting overwhelmed, avoid addressing everything at once. Multitasking might actually make you get less done. Instead, Simon suggests honing in on your top 3 priorities each day. Using the Getting Things Done method, which focuses on time management and organization, can help you with efficiency and productivity. Now, going back to what I said about me giving a casual glance at some things, I do my job. I do my job. I do just enough. And I never used to be that type of person. I used to have a very strong work ethic. But the more that I work and the longer that I work, that to-do list, I prioritize what will make my job safe for me and for the person that receives it, and I make sure that it's done in a way that, no harm will come to anybody. That is my priority. The cosmetic stuff and everything else, I have to admit, sometimes I don't have my heart in it because I feel like I'm overworked and it's just too much. It's enough. It's too much. Number 3 on here says you aren't getting enough sleep and have daytime fatigue. It's a simple formula. Being up longer leads to less sleep and more daytime fatigue. If you're charging through the workday for lengthy periods of time, it's very hard to quiet your mind at bedtime. Poor sleep doesn't just make you grumpy, it decreases productivity while increasing your risk for chronic diseases like type 2 diabetes and heart disease. It says here to give yourself a break. Work break balance is 52 consecutive minutes of work and 17 minutes for break. I do applaud my employer for enforcing that. We do have regular break times. Sometimes it doesn't feel like enough, but we do have regular break times when we're working extended hours. It says to take 17-minute breaks throughout your day, walk outside, talk with a friend, or do some light stretching. I definitely need to do this. This might help you overcome daytime sleepiness. Number 4 on this list from Healthline says, you've been feeling blue. You're living for the weekends mindset, unless you work on the weekends too. Working too much can take a toll on your mental health. One study found that workers who logged 11 hours per day were more likely to battle depression than those who worked 7 to 8 hours. Again, I am the president and also a participant of the 40 and Under Club. T-shirts available for purchase now. I am a member of the 40 and Under Club because I know that working a lot wears me out mentally. It does. And I'm already predisposed to depression. So people like me need less time working and more time recuperating. That's my personal opinion. It says to try this. It helps to be present so your mind isn't going in 100 directions. It's like hitting a reset button, says Simon. She recommends trying to do a meditation workshop or seeing a therapist. I wholeheartedly approve and encourage anyone to see a therapist at least once. Most health benefits actually cover a certain amount of free visits, and there's nothing wrong with using them. You can go in there and just, talk about anything. If you don't want to go deep, just go in there just for the experience. I would encourage anybody just to see a therapist once, just to see what it's like, to get rid of the stigma, and if there is anything else, going on in your life, you could bring it up, or just to have that experience to know somebody is there to help you, that's professional, that's not going to judge you. That is their job, to provide resources for you to be your best mentally and psychologically. It says here you can even use a meditation app on your commute home. Number 5, your heart is working overtime too. You might not really notice it, but work stress can release the hormone cortisol, which is hard on your heart. This in turn can increase your risk for stroke, coronary artery disease, type 2 diabetes, and cancer. Oh my goodness. I mentioned the coworker of mine who recently suffered a stroke. I mentioned the worker that suffered the heart attack that my mom told me about. There are a couple of coworkers that are out currently now with cancer or are in recovery from cancer. There's no way I can possibly, or would I ever, blame the job specifically. That would be irresponsible for me to do it. But I am connecting the dots and seeing a correlation between the stressful environment, the long work hours, the extended work periods, and our health. Yeah, the more I'm reading this article, it's ticking off instances and examples that I have seen in my workplace. And that's really scary. The part that I read about, you might not really notice it. Like, you might not feel it coming. You might not feel it building up in your body. Like with my migraines, I can feel when my migraines are coming on. It starts off as a small headache. I can kind of tell if it's going to get better, if it's going to go south. But it says here, you might not even notice it. Your heart might be under so much stress right now from working too much, and you won't even notice it until it's too late. It is really scary. It says to try this. Get your desk exercise on in the office. Now, I don't work in an office. I'm on my feet all the time. Me, in my work environment, we're constantly walking. You know, most warehouse jobs, you're on your feet, so you get a little bit of exercise. But this can still be good for other people. It says a stand-up desk isn't the only solution to sitting too much. Try conducting more stand-up meetings or plan coffee breaks with coworkers that require quick walks outside. You can also plan to eat lunch in the common area instead of your desk. Every step counts. I believe that works, me personally, because we're working so much and walking so much, and we're in an environment where we're just moving, humping along with the machinery there. Most people move as little as possible on break times. We used to have more break time, where people would go outside and walk around and do things, but those break times have actually been shortened, to so that the company can run lean. I don't agree with that either, but when we had longer break times and more breaks, people would actually get up, visit with people, go outside, do things like that. But I do think that's a good thing for people who sit down a lot. Number 6, your back and neck are aching. Repetition isn't always a good thing. My job is nothing but repetition. A study in the Occupational and Environmental Medicine Journal found that the more hours people worked, the greater their risk for back pain. For women, the pain tends to show up in the neck, while for men, it's in the lower back. It's a common sign of stress caused by muscle tension. I think a lot of my migraines are triggered by muscle tension. Try this. Consider a therapist. If you're really struggling with stress, therapy can help. It's not normal to have back pain or trouble sleeping. Talking to someone about your individual situation can help you enjoy life more. And I'm surprised they actually did not recommend regular massage visits, because if you have muscle tension and build up stress in your body, seeing a massage therapist is equally helpful to work out those tense muscles. Number 7 says your relationships are taking a hit, even if you have time for relationships, which I don't. I want to date so badly. That's a whole nother video. The stress, fatigue, and depression that you're experiencing due to work may take a toll on them as well. Yes, even though I don't have a significant other, I have experienced tension and or disconnect between me and my children from working so much. It says try this. Prioritize the fun stuff on your schedule. Work can stick with you after hours, especially if you're self-employed. To decompress, include non-work activities on your to-do list like exercise, listening to music, or time with friends. Make sure these things are built into your week or scheduled every day if you can. That has been an issue for me. I really want to do something fun, a little bit fun every day, instead of waiting to do it on the weekend, because I'm usually so tired that one day off that I don't do anything. And all work and no play makes Johnny or Janie a very unhappy person. Finally, it says focus on the big picture. Getting ahead shouldn't make you sick. Hallelujah. Amen. Yes. Getting ahead shouldn't make you sick. If you're working long hours with no end in sight, your boss may be able to help. Not in my situation. Think through your accomplishments and how you're contributing to the company. Honestly, I don't feel like I really contribute. That's another video. Then go to your boss and bring those up. I've done this with HR as well as my therapist. That doesn't work for my particular situation. Follow that with the fact that you're finding your work hours have taken over and you're not as efficient, said Simon. Don't forget that having happy, productive employees is your company's best interest. It helps keep people more engaged in their work and more likely to stay and contribute. With my particular work environment, sometimes I'm surprised that more people don't leave, because it can be really hard and tough to stay there. But because the financial compensation and benefit package is so nice, it's pretty much the hook. It's the hook. Okay, so those are my thoughts on, not my thoughts, those are the articles that support working too much I've got to find my sticky notes here to go over. I talked about Karoshi. And what else? Give me 1 minute here. I think I accidentally deleted one of my notes that I had up here. Make sure I hit on my points. If you would like to become a part of the 40 and Under Club while I'm searching for this information, all you have to do is make a promise to yourself that you are going to manage your money in a way that requires you to work the minimum 40 hours or less. By being frugal with your money, you can be generous with your time and have more fun without having to pay for it physically and financially. Okay, here are my notes here. See, I mentioned this. There are measures in the workplace to prevent incidents from occurring, like slips and trips, bumps and bruises, lacerations, and amputations. These are the types of injuries that are seen by the naked eye and may require short-term or long-term treatment. Personal protective wear is usually supplied by the company. They come in the form of things like eyewear, safety gloves, sleeves, fall equipment, hearing protection, breathing mask, and apparatus. And depending on your type of job, you may have other things that keep you safe on the job. Also, there are things like protective footwear, like steel-toe boots and long sleeve shirts and thick pants are usually required, but sometimes not supplied by the employer. These measures are taken to keep the employees physically safe from harm, which supports the workers' long-term health and employment and safeguards the employer from liabilities. However, long work hours can still have harmful effects on employees, both acutely and chronically. Currently, there are no safeguards that I know of to protect against these consequences of forced overtime work. In a follow-up video, I would like to cover history of worker rights and organized labor, whether it's union or non-union. I would like to cover the history of overtime. What are the rules of overtime? Overtime restrictions. Something called an overtime ban, which I was going to bring up now, but I'll bring it up in another video once I do a little bit more research on it. Overtime culture. Karoshi is death by overwork. Japan and other Asian countries have an overtime culture that is supported by their social philosophy that we make personal sacrifices for the good of the whole of the company. But we don't have that here in the United States and in the West. So why do we still have such a strong overtime culture? Overtime effects, I went over some of them. Overtime prevention, just say no. In many cases, you can just say no. In my case, I really can't say no. I can say please, and they can approve it or deny it. But overtime prevention, just say no and live in a way that does not require you to have to work overtime. Overtime rights and regulations, and then this pretty much concludes this video here. I'll go back in to these notes and do some more research and bring them to you for your entertainment, education, and debate. But yeah, back to work already. You guys saw how I reacted back to work. I had my own little micro breakdown 3 days in. I just I'm a sensitive person by nature. I really am. I'm a sensitive person, so I do naturally react to some things more strongly than other people would. But even saying that, the way that I have been reacting lately and what my body has been doing and my mind has been doing, it's a sign. It's got to be telling me that this is not for me and that I should be doing something else that doesn't make me feel quite so bad. So I'm working on things. I'm working on it. I'm gonna keep working on it until I reach my goal. But what about the people who don't have that outward expression or outward reaction like I do? See, with me, when something hurts my feelings, you will know. I will get quiet. I will pout. I will cry. Those are outside physical signs that something is wrong with Kenya. When I work too much, I get, basically the same types of symptoms. But what about other people who are not sensitive, who do not normally express themselves and may still be suffering? how are they reacting? How is their body reacting? How are they even acknowledging what they're feeling? Are they doing something about it? Because if you have an issue, if you have a problem, you can't address the problem if you don't even acknowledge it. And you can't really acknowledge it if you don't see the signs. So it just makes me curious as to how other people are coping with and managing the stresses and consequences that come from working so much. I really hope everybody is taking time to be self-aware, know what's going on with their body, know what's going on with their mind, know what's going on with their feelings, and that they're doing something about it. Taking control. You can't always take control of a situation, but at least if you can acknowledge how you're feeling about it and not ignore it, you can take control of how you feel. You can take control of your emotions. You can take control of your thoughts. When I was in therapy, we were handed out a sheet. It's like a little cartoon sheet with these faces on it. And it's like happy, sad, angry, whatever. It's like 20 to 30 faces on there. There are a lot of different emotions and feelings. And the reason that the counselors hand this out is because some people have trained themselves so well not to feel, they don't even acknowledge a feeling when it pops up. They don't even know when they're feeling something. They know that they're feeling bad. They know that they're off, feeling a little bit off. But some people can't even acknowledge what they're feeling in their mind, what they're feeling in their body. They're so used to pushing, and ignoring the signs and symptoms until it's too late. So I would encourage you all to either do some meditation or do some yoga or do something that allows you to really get in tune with your body, really get in tune with your mind, and start paying attention to your body. Stop ignoring yourself. Stop denying what you're feeling. You don't always have to act based off of what you feel, but at least acknowledge it so that you can take care of yourself and live your best and healthy life. Sometimes I wish I had more control over my emotions because I'm acknowledging every little thing that I feel, but I think I would rather feel than not feel. I think I would rather know and be in tune with my body to know what's going on and be able to make a decision rather than just ignore it. So that's the end of this particular topic I'm going to cover. I really wish I could have engaged with people on the live stream, but for whatever reason, I think it's because I'm out here in my warehouse, aka my garage, where my eBay items are. And I think the Wi-Fi just isn't strong enough out here, and that's why it probably kept kicking me off. I don't notice it when I'm browsing, but it's definitely an issue when I'm trying to stream. So unless I can get an Ethernet cable out here, I probably will not be able to do many live streams out here. But for those of you who took the time to catch up with me on this pre-recorded message that couldn't stay connected with me on the live stream, I appreciate it. I appreciate you. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment on how you feel about overtime, Karoshi, overtime culture, and anything else that I mentioned in the video. Thanks for your time. I'll see you in the next video.